Hello, this is Wendy Garcars from the Micro Business Growth Club, and this presentation is intended to help you learn how to say no, or the art of assertiveness. It's something many of us struggle with, and in a bid to be helpful to other people, we often put ourselves under unnecessary stress and pressure when we're trying to work and get things done. So in this presentation, we'll give you some tips and hints about how you might flex your no muscle and start to get used to saying that word a little bit more frequently. The difficulty is that in our bid to be helpful, we will take on things that either are not our job to do, or we really don't have the time or the capacity to deal with. But we're worried that if we say no, somehow that will damage the relationship, or actually that people will think of it as rejection, and we worry about that. So for me, the way that we get drawn into this is that when we're asked to do something, we run it through our heads and we go, well, do you know what? Okay, just this once. That phrase is the kiss of death, because once you've accepted this once, if you're not careful, this becomes your job. You own this, and it's incredibly difficult to bat it back and get rid of it. So I just really want to take you through the consequences of using that phrase. Because in our busy lives, it is too easy to take on too much. It's too easy to take on things that aren't our responsibility. And before you know it, we have a massive workload that really isn't targeted at doing the things we need to do. All because you just wanted to be helpful. You have to remember that that good deed can turn into your job, and it can take over priority of the things that you absolutely need to do. But it takes awareness and practice to say no, to keep those relationships intact and to keep everything on an even keel. It has to start with you beginning to recognise that your time is a valuable resource, as valuable as anybody else's, and therefore should be treated with absolute respect. So the first thing you need to do is decide where your personal boundaries are. So this is a set of rules that you use to show what you find acceptable and what you find unacceptable. If you don't have these in your head, you can't expect anybody else to know them instinctively. So you have to work them out first. And this can be not just about the way you want your time to be used, but about all sorts of things, about the values that you hold dear to your heart when you are working, when you are running your business, and can include things like the way you feel about honesty and respect and consideration, the way you like to prioritise your work, whether you protect time and for what you protect that time, self-care, making sure that you're okay so that you can help other people out, going the extra mile. Who do you do that for? What do you do it for? And when is it appropriate for you to do that? So if you can think about those rules and you have those boundaries in place, it becomes then much easier to say no when somebody oversteps one of those boundaries. Start by thinking, if you've never done this sort of thing before, start by thinking about how people speak to you. What are the basic rules that you have about that? What do you feel is acceptable? What is unacceptable? What's your view about bad language or derogatory words? How do you deal with those sorts of things? If you don't know what your own boundary is, you can't expect anybody else to know. So this requires a bit of preparation, requires a bit of reflection. It's not a finite task, so it's something that will change and will grow and develop as you do, but you need some basic markers in the sand. And if you're thinking about saying no in a work sense, then the best place to start is about the habits that you have and the ones that are related to the way you work. So that's your working hours, your responses to emails, taking regular breaks, not making yourself available 24/7. And of course, what you expect from other people too in that response. So if you respond to emails within 24 hours, if you respond to your emails in 24 hours or 48 hours, do you automatically expect other people to do the same thing? And if you do, then that is one of your boundaries. When you've got your set of boundaries, then what will be your response when people overstep those boundaries? You have to work out how you're going to tackle that. And that it starts with making sure that they understand your rules. So when you've worked out your rules, you have to share them. And the easiest way to do that is when they have overstepped that boundary. So when someone breaks a boundary, what do? Well, first of all, you need to tell them that they've broken the boundary. I was expecting a response from you within 48 hours. It's been 4 days, and I don't find that acceptable. Might be a way that you would tackle that. So you follow that up by an expectation of how you want people to behave towards you. I expect a response within 48 hours. Now, of course, if that is your expectation, let's say that you're complaining about something and your expectation is that they will get back to you in 48 hours. Don't forget to include it in the email. So include your boundary wherever you can so that people have a heads up that that's your expectation. If they then fail to deliver on that, you can then go back citing the fact that you included the boundary, and it makes it much easier then to reinforce your responses. I would say that this does take practice and it does take you time to get used to this because it'll feel a little bit uncomfortable when you first start to do it. But my honest response to people when they're starting to do this for the first time is don't feel guilty about putting your needs and emotions on an equal footing with other people, because this isn't about making sure that you get more than everybody else. It is about making sure that you get the same as everybody else. So don't be worried about establishing that boundary is there. And then when you are doing that, people will question you about that. They might even test that boundary just to see how serious you are about maintaining it. So this is where the next technique comes in. You have to practice being the broken record. You have to learn to say no in a way that is polite and from the heart. And you need to get used to saying that so that it sounds as though it's the most natural thing in the world for you. And it's also about ensuring that you're not too passive about it and let other people override your no or your not yet. It goes both ways. You can't be aggressive with other people. You can't violate their rights. This is about standing up for your rights and the way that you like things done. So there are a couple of examples here that you might want to use to test this out. You might want to say, well, thanks for asking, but I can't do that at the moment. Then say nothing. Smile, look the person in the eye and be quiet. Don't rationalise it or explain it. If they try to object, just keep repeating, I'm sorry, but that just isn't possible at the moment. It's friendly but firm. If you need to explain, let's say it's somebody who is, you may be operating in a subordinate role to, then you might have to explain that by saying something like, I can't do that for you right now, but if you wait till Tuesday, I'll be able to help you out then. So it's not a no, it's a not right now, but. And again, sometimes that's acceptable to people. But you have to make sure that that fits in with your capacity and you're not overextending yourself simply by delaying the inevitable. The next one is, I'm sorry, but I don't have the time right now to give that the attention it deserves. Somebody else may be better suited to do that than I am right now. Have you tried X? They may be able to help you. So this is where you try and deflect it and delegate it. Obviously, you will know the circumstances that that's appropriate too. But if you don't try this out, then you can expect people to take advantage because people will always take the line of least resistance. And the moment you say, oh, okay, then just this once, you have to go back to the beginning and you have to start reinforcing those boundaries all over again. So finally, saying no doesn't undermine your authority or your competence. In fact, in my experience, your credibility very often is enhanced when you honestly tell people you lack the time or the capacity to do it. They appreciate the upfrontness of it. You'll have more time if you start to do this to devote to the tasks that do return the highest value for your time. So flex your no muscle, create your rules and make sure that you're getting other people to stick to them. You can do this in a polite manner. Your relationships don't have to suffer simply because you're saying no. But what will happen is this assertiveness that you find will start to protect your time and the efforts that you put in to make sure that you're getting the best use out of your own time. So give it a go, and I hope you get on really well. Thank you.